Hey guys, so the first PowerPoint I'm going to go over tonight is the angles PowerPoint, and this is one we have already gone over. Okay, so these are the angles that we have been dealing with so far. We've been dealing with acute angles, which are less than 90, right angles, which make this shape right here. Also, a dead giveaway for right angles is anytime you see this box right here. That symbolizes a right angle. So sometimes they may not tell you or put 90 degrees in there. You'll only see this box right here. If you see that, you know it's a right angle. Obtuse angle, greater than 90. Okay? So if you ever want to tell if something's less than 90 or greater than 90, just give yourself a little imaginary line going straight to the vertex, going straight up from the vertex. I can't really do it too good with my finger, but you get the idea. And if it's not straight up from the vertex like this, that's your reference point. So right here, you can see that it's less than 90 because it's, closer to our other endpoint over here. And this one is greater than 90 because it's further away from our endpoint over here. And then straight angles are exactly 180. So anytime you see a straight line like this, its angle measure is exactly 180 degrees. And then as for the definition of an angle, which you may not need to know, it can always help though. Definition of an angle is two rays with a common endpoint called the vertex. And all of these points, the vertex is right here. Okay? And then on the straight line, you can't see it, but it's somewhere in the middle. Okay? Then it has two rays. Okay, complementary angles. Two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. If you don't know what sum means, that just means total. So when you add two angles together and their total is 90 degrees, they are complementary to each other. Okay? So in this picture right here, you can see that this angle right here is 90 degrees because of the box. Okay? But it's also comprised of two smaller angles. So you got this angle right here, and you've got this angle right here. Okay? But when you add them together, you get this giant angle right here, which is 90 degrees. So just by looking at them, you can tell that they are complementary. You have already seen problems in class where you have to find an angle, and they don't give you the total. You just have to look at the shape and figure out whether they're complementary or supplementary. So angles 1 and 2 are complementary to each other. So here you have some examples. So looking at example 1, it says angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary. If angle 1 is 32 degrees, what is the measure of angle 2? Well, we can write an equation to solve for that. This is just using the skills we just learned with one-step and two-step equations. Now you just have to use the rules and identities of angles and shapes to set up your equations now. Okay, so as you can see, this is how they set up their equation. They said angle 1, which was 32, plus angle 2, which is what we're trying to find out. You don't have to write angle 2, you could also just write x, or any variable you want to, or you can even write a for angle. So plus angle 2 is going to equal 90. Nowhere in the example did they tell us that it equals exactly 90. Not directly anyways. But they did say angles 1 and angles 2 are complementary. So that lets you know that the total is going to be 90. Okay? You can also tell by the picture. See this box right here? That tells you that the whole shape right there is going to add up to 90. So then they isolate angle 2. They subtract 32 from both sides. and they get 90 minus 32 equals 58. So if angle 1 is 32 degrees, angle 2 has to be 58 degrees if they are complementary. Alright, on to example 2. Example 2, find the value of x if the angles are complementary. Oh, sorry, I said that like that. I thought I was about to say supplementary. Yeah, so we're still working on complementary. So on this one, they try to throw you off a little bit, but it's just a little different. It's not much different. So we just do the same process as last time. We know they're complementary, so we know we're going to add this angle measure to this angle measure, and it's going to equal 90 degrees. And that's exactly what they did right here. So you've got your 40 plus your other angle, which was x plus 1. And it said that they were complementary, so you know it's going to equal 90. Okay? That's why they set up that equation the way they did. So they combine like terms. So the way I said this in class, or I've been saying this in class, is you can't combine cats and dogs. Okay? The only things you can combine are cats to cats or dogs to dogs. So if they are not alike, you cannot combine them. The only two things that are alike in the left side of the equation is the 40 and the 1. So they just combine those, they added them together to just get 41. Okay? So you're left with x plus 41 equals 90. That's just a one-step equation. So we need to isolate x on the left side to solve for it. So we just subtract 41 from both sides. The 41 right there will cancel out, and you get 90 minus 41 equals 49. So x equals 49. Now, an important thing to remember is all we did was solve for x. We did not solve how much this whole angle is right here. In order to do that, we would have to plug in for x. If you plugged in 49 for x right here, you'd get 49 plus 1 equals 50, which makes sense because 50 plus 40 equals 90. So make sure that you pay attention to what it's asking for. You need to pay attention if it's asking for x or if it's asking you to find the actual angle measure. Alright, now we're on to supplementary angles. These are the exact same thing. This is the exact same process as complementary angles, except the two angles now equal 180. Okay? So before, they were equaled some shape that looked kind of like that. Kind of like this right here. Well, now you have a straight line. Okay? So you've got this angle right here plus this angle right here equals 180. And you know this because if you add both of their shapes together, you get a straight line. And we know that straight lines always equal 180 degrees. So if they tell you it's supplementary, or if you see two angles on a straight line, you know that they add up to 180 degrees. Alright, so example 1. Angle 3 and angle 4 are supplementary. If angle 4 is 126 degrees, how many degrees is 3? So this is just like example 1 on the last one. They give you one of the angles, you have to solve for the other. And you see right here, this is how they set up their equation. We know that angle 4 right here is 126, so that's where they got that from. And then they're going to add whatever angle 3 is. We don't know what it is, so they just write angle 3. You could easily write x or any variable you want to. So they simplify. They subtract 126 from both sides, and you're left with angle 3 equals 180 minus 26, and that equals 54. So angle 3 is 54, which makes sense. You can always double check your work. So this is 126. Add 54 to it, you get 180. So that makes sense. So let's go to example 2. Angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. If angle 1 is 52 degrees and angle 2 is 2x plus 2 degrees, what is the value of x? So we're looking for x. And then it asks you how many degrees is angle 2. So right here in blue, they show you how to set up the equation to solve for x. So it says the angles are supplementary, so we know our total is going to be 180. So it's on the right by itself. Then it says angle 1 right here is 52 degrees, so that's where they got this from. And then it says angle 2 is 2x plus 2. So angle 2 is 2x plus 2, so they're going to add that to our 52 degrees. That's where they got that from. So they combine like terms again. So 52 and 2 are like terms. Okay, so they just added them together to get 54. That's much simpler than trying to isolate x by doing multiple operations. Now it's just a 2-step equation instead of a 3-step equation. So what they did here, they subtracted 54 from both sides, and they got 180 minus 54 is 126. Then they had to get rid of this 2 right here, so they divided both sides by 2. After dividing both sides by 2, you're left with x equals 63. Now, in order to solve for the degrees in angle 2, we just plug in x into our original equation to solve for angle 2. So they did 63 times 2 plus 2. Well, 63 times 2 is 126, and then plus 2 is 128. And that's what they got right here. Simple enough. Oops. Okay, sorry about that. So let me go to the next problems, which is right here. Okay, so now we are where we need to be. Okay, so on this practice problem it says to identify the pairs of angles as complementary or supplementary or neither. So we're going to look at number 1, 2, 3, and 4 in here. So looking at number 1, so we have 45 and 54. If we add those together, we get a total of 99. 99 is not complementary because that has to be exactly 90. 99 is not supplementary because that needs to be 180. So it's neither, and that's what they got right there, right above it. Number 2, if you add 136 and 44, you get 180. So that's why they say supplementary. 76 plus 104, that's 180 as well. So they got a supplementary. And then 26 plus 64, that's exactly 90. So those two angles are complementary. Alright, and then on these other ones, you have to find the value of x for each figure. Well, number 5, they see that they have a straight line and that they have two angles. So they know those two angles have to be equal to 180. So this is their equation. They say x plus 31 equals 180. So to solve for x, you just subtract 31 from both sides. Once you do that, you're left with x equals 149. So that's how they did that. Number 6, they see that they have a right angle right here, so they know it's going to be complementary. The two angles in there, so this 30-degree angle and this 3x degrees angle, are going to add up to equal 90. So that equation looks like this. 30 plus, oops, sorry for this handwriting, it's with my finger, plus 3x equals 90. Subtract 30 from both sides and you're left with 3x equals 60. Divide by 3 on both sides. Those 3's cancel. You're left with x equals 20. The actual degree measure of that would be 60, because 60 plus 30 equals 90. Same thing here. For number 7, they just did x plus 65 equals 90. Then they just subtract 65 from both sides and you're left with x equals 25. On number 8, that's similar to number 6. So now we're back to a straight line, so we now know that they are supplementary. So that equation looks like this. 25 plus x plus 5 equals 180. So they combine like terms, and they get x plus 30 equals 180. Then they subtract 30 from both sides. That 30 cancels, and you're left with x equals 150. So that's how you do those. Pretty simple. Alright, so now we're on to the next PowerPoint. This one covers vertical and adjacent angles. Vertical angles. Angles that are opposite of each other when two lines intersect. They are congruent and have the same measure. So as we see, angles 1 and 3 are opposite of each other. And the reason that they are congruent is, here's a good way to think about it. Imagine that you had an imaginary line going right through the middle of our little intersection right here. Well, if you were to flip this half of it over to the other side, these lines right here, so the lines of angle 1 would lay directly on top of the lines of angle 3. So that can only mean that they are congruent to each other, or that they have the same angle. So if angle 1 had, let's say, 30 degrees, then angle 3 would also be 30 degrees. Angles 2 and 4 are vertical angles. So let's say they had 40 degrees. Well, angle 4 would also be 40 degrees. Okay? So they have to be opposite to each other, and they're also equal to each other. Those are the two important things to remember with vertical angles. Adjacent angles. Angles that have a common side, a common vertex, and do not overlap. So as you can see, this list right here, this lists all of the adjacent angles. So they have to share a common side, or as I like to say, they are just next to each other. So angles 1 and 2 are adjacent, angles 1 and 4 are adjacent. 3 and 2, 4 and 3. Those are all adjacent to each other, or next to. They share a common side, so angles 1 and 2 are adjacent to each other because they share this side. Angles 4 and 3 are adjacent to each other because they share this side. So the definition is pretty laid out for you. And then this is a practice example where it just says name all the vertical angles and adjacent angles. You can do that for practice if you like. I'm not going to do all that because that would take quite a bit of time. So example 2, find the value of x and the measure of angles 1, 3, and 4. So this is just like a problem we did a while ago. We see that angle 1 is... Okay, and then you can also tell that it is you can also tell that it is acute just by looking at the angles. They all look like they're less than 90, which is very obvious to tell, so you know that it's acute. On this one, they kind of try to trick you. They don't give you the little square like they're supposed to, but you can obviously look at it and see that it has a nice 90-degree angle right there. So you know it's a right triangle, and you know it's scalene because all three side lengths are different. So all I did was use the definitions to name them. Okay, so here's another rule you have to remember. This one's for triangles. Interior angles of a triangle. The sum of the measures of the interior angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. So you've got complementary angles that equal 90, supplementary angles that equal 180, and you know the sum of the interior angles of a triangle will also be 180. So all this says right here is the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C equals 180. Okay? So you have to know that their angles are going to equal 180 to solve for x sometimes. And we're about to see some problems like that. So here it says find the missing angle for each triangle. So we can solve for x because we know that if we add all three of these angles together, they're going to equal 180 degrees. So that equation for number 1 would look like this. 35 plus 26 plus x, plus x equals 180. Okay? And you can easily solve for x after combining like terms. The equation for number 2, that's going to be x plus 35 plus 65 equals 180. If you subtract 100 from both sides, you're left with x equals 80. And that's how they got 80 degrees. On number 3, that equation looks like this. You have x plus 58. Now on this one, they don't give you an actual number, but what they do give you is this box. And if you refer back to what I told you a few moments ago, you know that that box, anytime you see that box, you know that it has an angle that's 90 degrees. So plus 90 equals 180. Okay? Pretty simple. It just takes a little bit of memorization on these. So make sure you're practicing by yourself too, so you have all these rules memorized. Well, that concludes the first video of the first unit for the next SBA. Thanks for watching.